Hi, I'm Carrie from Ink and Think 3DP. We're here in New York at MakerBot Industries, the world's only 3D printing retail store, to find out what 3D printing is and why it's so important. So let's go inside.
MakerBot, we're a Brooklyn-based 3D printing company. We were started in 1999 by three founders that were big into the RepRap project, a hacker project back in the late 90s, to build a machine that could build itself. 3D printers work in a couple of different ways. As far as MakerBot goes, we use a fusion-like process. And since all of our materials right now are plastic, what we're doing is melting the plastic, which comes in threads, and then it comes out in, I guess, slightly thinner threads, and it'll lay down a track or a layer on our build plate. The build plate will move down, and then it will continually lay on layers after that. You can barely see it because it works at such a small level, but the extruder, or the thing with the nozzle on it, is going around in a predetermined path, laying out very thin strands. Using a 3D printer is not really the hardest part of 3D printing. It's really the design, making sure things like your design is airtight, or even something simple like flat enough to be printed on the build plate, or taking into account something's not flat when you're printing it. But honestly, once you have your design solidified, it's really just slicing and sending it to a printer, and then it'll come out.
I use 3D printing to prototype products that I'm working on and do little small iterations before we get to the final thing. We went through about 6 or 7. The first one was slightly larger. We went through about 8 or 9 different variations of the wheels, and this enabled us to test it before we'd actually go to production with it and put it on Kickstarter. Basically turns your Instagrams into 35mm slide film, and you put them in this little wheel, and then you put them in a projector, and it projects.
Some of our biggest customers are architects and architectural firms, mainly for doing models like this, if you can see it. So they basically take their floor models and they'll extrude them up, which is a 3D word for taking 2D things and making them 3D. I've also met some interior designers that will not only build up the models, but then paint the walls the colors that they want the house to be, print little furniture to put it in, and actually just try to sell a fully made house just like this. Everything is really solid in here. You can control the density of anything you print. That's measured by something called infill, which goes by percents. So this is at about 10% infill. So if you cut it open from the top and looked inside, all you'd see is a bunch of little honeycombs. So it allows you to save on plastic while keeping it structurally sound. These are the filament spools that we use. Can be a little confusing because we offer 2 types of plastic here. All of this over here, like the predominant number of colors, is ABS plastic, which is pretty much Lego plastic. It's a petroleum-based plastic. And then everything over here is, it's called PLA, which stands for polylactic acid. And it's a starch-based plastic. So you could use cornstarch or potato starch to make these spools. There's pros and cons to both types of plastic. The ABS or petroleum one is very good in environmentally harsh conditions. It can stand up to heat and pressure a lot better than the PLA can. But for that, there are some cons that come along with that, and that is that it'll shrink pretty regularly, about 2.4%. So if you're doing something that is has to be really precise, you have to take that into account when you're designing. Because of the petroleum, it also curls up off of the plate a lot, so you need a heated build plate to print with that, so you can hold it down. As far as the PLA goes, it's biodegradable and eco-friendly, so that's really good for our current climate. But it's also a little brittle, so it doesn't do bends and curves as well as the ABS does. So based on what you're going to be making, that's kind of going to determine what kind of plastic you're going to use. So this is our 3D photo booth, and what it does, it's a collaboration between us and another company called ShapeShot, based in Maryland. We do the printing aspect of this, and they do the whole 3D scanning. So what's going on is you can probably see there's little holes on the side of the computer monitor. Inside of each of those holes, there's a DSLR camera, not even a special 3D camera. 4 cameras will flash at you at once, and based on that light, different shadows will be casted on your face. And those shadows are used to pick up depth and I guess definition. And then all 4 photos are combined together, and the 3D rendering is made. We then take the 3D rendering and print them, and they come out something like this. It's my face, mini-me.
We hope you enjoyed that. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and remember, I ink, therefore I am.